This is a true story that I'm going to tell today. He answered the same phone call every night for 12 years, until one night it stopped every night at exactly 9:17 p.m. Mark's phone rang. Not 9:16, not 9:18, always 9:17. Mark never saved the number. He didn't need to. He knew the call by heart. For 12 years, he answered it the same way. "Hey, Mom." And for 12 years, a soft voice replied, "Hey, baby, did you eat?" Mark was 41 years old. He worked as a night supervisor at a packaging plant just outside Toledo, Ohio. He lived alone in a modest 2-bedroom house with a quiet backyard and a porch light he rarely turned off. His co-workers thought it was strange that he stepped outside every night at the same time, but they didn't know the story, and Mark never told it. The night everything changed, the call started on a cold Tuesday night in November. Mark was 29. He had just finished a late shift when his phone buzzed in his pocket. Unknown number. He almost ignored it, but something told him not to. "Hello?" he said. There was silence, then breathing. "Mark?" a woman asked, her voice shaken. "Yes?" "Oh, thank God," she said. "I found your number in my son's phone. I don't know who else to call." Mark stood still. "My son's name is David," she continued. "He was in an accident. They said he didn't make it." Mark felt the air leave his lungs. "I'm sorry," he said gently. "I think you have the wrong number." There was a long pause. "No," she said slowly. "His phone says, 'Mark, don't forget.'" Mark's hands trembled. David was his best friend. They grew up together, went to the same school, joined the same football team, dreamed of leaving town together. David was the one who convinced Mark to apply for college. David was the one who believed Mark was more than just a factory kid. David was gone. The first call after the funeral was small. Rain soaked through Mark's suit. David's mother, Eleanor, stood by the grave, holding herself together with quiet strength. Mark didn't know what to say. He hugged her and whispered, "I'm so sorry." She nodded. That night, Mark's phone rang at 9:17 p.m. Unknown number. He answered. "Mark?" Eleanor asked. I didn't mean to call," she said quickly. I didn't know who else to talk to." Mark sat down. "It's okay," he said. She cried. He listened. When the call ended, Mark stared at his phone for a long time. The next night it rang again. Same time, same number. Why 9:17 p.m. Weeks later, Mark finally asked, "Why do you always call at the same time?" Eleanor laughed softly through the phone. "That's when David used to call me," she said. "Every night, 9:17. He said it was late enough to mean something, but early enough not to worry me." Mark closed his eyes. "I don't want to forget that," she said. Neither did he. The years passed. At first, the calls were heavy, grief-filled, slow, painful, but over time they changed. Eleanor asked Mark about work. Mark asked about her garden. They talked about weather, recipes, memories. Sometimes they laughed. Sometimes they cried. Sometimes they sat in silence, listening to each other breathe. Mark never missed a call. Not when he was sick. Not when he was exhausted. Not when he started dating again. When his girlfriend once asked why he disappeared every night, he said, "It's important." She didn't understand. She left a year later. The calls remained. What Mark never told anyone. Mark never told Eleanor this. On the night David died, Mark was supposed to be with him. They had planned to meet. Mark canceled last minute because he was tired. David went alone. The accident happened on the way home. Mark carried that guilt quietly. Every night call felt like both punishment and forgiveness. When Eleanor got sick year 8, the calls changed again. Eleanor's voice grew weaker. She coughed more. She forgot things. Sometimes she asked the same question twice. Mark answered patiently every time. One night she said, "You sound just like my son." Mark couldn't speak. Another night she asked, "Are you eating enough?" He smiled through tears. "Yes, Mom." It slipped out accidentally. She paused, then softly said, "I like that." The last call, year 12, November again. Mark stepped outside at 9:16 p.m. The phone didn't ring. 9:17 passed. 9:18, nothing. Mark felt his chest tighten. At 9:42 p.m., his phone buzzed. A different number. A nurse spoke. "I'm calling about Eleanor Thompson." Mark already knew. "She passed peacefully tonight," the nurse said. "She asked me to make sure you knew she wasn't alone." Mark sat on the porch until morning. What happened next? A week later, Mark received a small package. Inside was an old flip phone and a note. "David saved your number under 'Don't Forget' because he said you reminded him who he was trying to become. Thank you for not letting me be alone." Mark still steps outside every night. Mark still steps outside at 9:17. The phone doesn't ring anymore. But sometimes, when the wind is quiet, he answers anyway. "Hey, Mom," because every life has a story, and every story deserves to be told.